Let's do it. Let's get it.
So you want to just give some brief
Yeah,
background on yourself?
for many of those that probably won't know, I worked at FTX for a year, and I'm still in the crypto industry. And a big thing about just kind of my experience at FTX was I worked there for a year, and I happened to get a job. I signed my new offer letter the same like a week before FTX went bankrupt, and I really got to see it from peak to fall from the inside, which was fascinating. And so we'll get into that later on. I worked out of Chicago, but I did spend like 3 months at their headquarters down in the Bahamas, living a very lavish lifestyle, which we now know is funded with user funds, which, when you got to see it firsthand, it makes sense because nothing else did in terms of how they ran a company. And so we'll get into all that.
So how does you end up working there? Like, how does you even find?
Yeah, so I had 2 or 3 different positions at FTX. I actually, when I had started a year ago, this was like before they had really made themselves kind of a household name. They had just signed Tom Brady and just started working with Shaq. And I didn't know what FTX was before I started. It was only when a recruiter reached out on LinkedIn, and she reached out for a compliance role, which I didn't really know what compliance was until I started working in compliance, which should have been a red flag there. I had no compliance experience.
It's bad, so compliance is terrible.
Right. And so compliance, for those that don't know, working in compliance, especially working in like a financial company in compliance, means you're the department that's charged with making sure internally things are going well, and then also externally things are going well. You're preventing fraud, people that want to sign up and use fake IDs or run some type of scam. You're the first line of defense for filtering those people out and creating and maintaining policies that prevent that, which was great. It was a real full circle in my life to work in compliance for FTX. And it was interesting, but in retrospect, it's like, why would they hire somebody to work in compliance that had no compliance experience? And then on top of that, I had my academic background and my career has all been in marketing. And so prior to that, I worked for an accounting firm running a marketing department. And when they were looking to hire me, they actually skipped over me for the first position that they were looking for because I had too much experience. So they truly were looking for people that were inexperienced and that could just kind of, as later described, be soldiers, and would do things without asking questions was really their big motto. And
that makes sense because you wouldn't know any better to say that's
absolutely
right.
So how was that interview process?
So it was actually very sketch because, like I said, when I first found out about FTX, I hadn't really heard of them before, and then obviously I researched as soon as they reached out to me, and it was a series of 4 interviews. The first was with a recruiter who was working with a company to find me. The next 2 were with people that worked in compliance. And then the last one was going to be with some senior compliance member. And it was the day before my last interview. And I got an email just saying like, oh, we're going to have to reschedule. And then they just ghosted me for 2.5 months. And I hadn't heard from them. Later on, I did find out that this was the time frame in which they were moving their headquarters to the Bahamas. And they just completely ghosted me. And then, like I said, 2.5 months later, they reached out. And I was like, at that point, I had another offer letter on the table from Spot Hero, actually. And I was like, look, I'll take this interview because if they could waste my time, I could waste theirs, so I see what it's about. I come to find out, I hear the benefits and, I'd go into negotiations. They offer me $10K more than, the other company. And I was like, this is great. Plus one of their perks was, of course, free healthcare and $200 a day for DoorDash. So
$200 a day?
Are you serious?
Which is like an extra $75,000 if you account.
What?
Honestly, I don't even think I could spend $200 on DoorDash a day, like every day. And then once you get it, then yeah, you can't spend $200 a day easy on DoorDash. That shit is amazing.
What you want? You go. Your whole bread is gonna be leftovers.
Literally,
it's possible.
It's just amazing.
Like you got Walgreens on there, everything that you could possibly even need. The only thing that you couldn't do was order alcohol, but you get credits when they fuck your orders up, and you can use the credits to buy whatever you want, including alcohol. So it was great.
This is next level.
It was a great ride.
I'm not gonna lie. This sounds like the biggest blessing ever. Like,
man,
y'all tweaked with me, and now y'all just went too crazy.
No, and they paying me more than the other person. So like, it was.
You see what I'm saying?
Sweet. And so, that was my role. As I mentioned, I was very transparent during my last interview when I finally had it. I was like, look, my background's in marketing. I have another role in marketing, etc. And the woman that I was interviewing with was like, look, if you want to be in marketing, take the role in marketing. Like, this is not a marketing role, this, that, the other. But if I were you and I were in your shoes, I would take a role as a receptionist just to be in the company and try and switch when you can. Like, work your ass off and switch to another department when you can, which is what I did within 3 months of being at FTX. I think I started in November of 2021. And by January, I was in charge of sending all their emails and, quickly went from just being their email marketer to being one of the 3 people working for FTX US marketing. So it was a very interesting and fascinating ride. That's just the start of it,